Good morning. Any questions? That would be a good verse to read before you brush your teeth every day. That's the teaching. It's written in many different ways, of course, because this is a 2,000-year-old tradition. Traditionally, it's called the Bodhisattva's vow. We call it the Awakened One's vow. And the idea of Bodhisattva, as I understand it, comes from a conference of sorts that was held many years after the Buddha's death. There had been some subgroups and schisms and different ways of practice, and they got together and they had like the Vatican Council. And they said, what are we doing here? Because you're teaching this and you're teaching this. Let's try to come to some agreement. And as I understand it, the consequence of this big confab was the formalization of what we now call the Hinayana and Mahayana schools, the great vehicle or the lesser vehicle. And those aren't value statements. The great vehicle is usually referred to as the older version, and the lesser vehicle is the newer version. Not that any of this matters. But that's where the idea of bodhisattva came from. You all know what that word means? Remember, you got to know this stuff. We're not just reading words here. Would you like to explain it? Does you understand it?
Well, from what I've learned and how I've been, I guess, growing up in the Roman Catholic faith, I always think of bodhisattvas as being saints. People who woke up, like Mother Teresa and the people we talked about, and we're like, oh, my business is right here, my work is right here, heaven and hell are right here. So I think of the bodhisattva that way.
Awakened beings.
An awakened
Yeah.
being.
Would it be safe to say disciple as well?
Disciples? Well, in a broad sense, I suppose we're all disciples. We're sitting here, aren't we?
We're glad.
Could be doing anything in the world on a Sunday morning instead I'm sitting here. One of the dimensions of bodhisattva that I think is important, and it's not a hard reference to find if you want to take time to look, is a bodhisattva is somebody who's awakened, somebody who's achieved a high level of maturity, recognition of Buddha nature, and they take a stand and they say, I'm not leaving till everybody leaves. Metaphorically. It's a commitment that a bodhisattva makes to the whole planet, to every person, everyone, people not even born yet. A bodhisattva says, I'm staying. In the Hinayana schools, some of the Hinayana schools, there's the old Vedic and Hindu idea that the goal of practice is to get out, to not be born again. That's not the way things are seen in this tradition. I'm not leaving till we all leave together. We're all getting on the bus together. Make sense? So reading through this, we see that that's an acknowledgement of the interconnectedness of all beings. Even when you turn against me and abuse and persecute me, I'm going to still pay attention. I'm going to still care about you. Even rocks and waters. I'm going to care about all beings, all creation. And I think that's just so lovely. I've always liked this piece a lot. Because we're all connected. Right?
I forget.
Hmm?
I sometimes forget.
Which really pisses me off. Yeah, of course, that's practice. We come to the cushion. We die on the cushion. old thoughts and feelings, old beliefs, old systems of consciousness, old ideas. They all have to be examined. You used that phrase the other night. You talked about dying on the cushion. It's a lovely idea, isn't it? I'm going to go die. Go over to the Zen Center and die this morning. Dressed in black. Yeah. We're ready for the funeral. But that's the spirit behind the idea. Those old ideas, those old beliefs, those old ways of being. I cannot do that anymore. It's not possible for me to punch you in the face. It's not possible for me to stick a needle in my arm. It's not possible for me to be cruel. It's not possible because consciousness has matured. Understand? Doesn't make those impulses go away, not entirely, but in practice they do. There's no need. It's wasteful. And that can really be a challenge, this Bodhisattva's vows, when it says that no matter if people turn against me and abuse and persecute me, I will love them anyway. So our dear friends, our spouses, our partners, they're such assholes sometimes. They just don't understand. Right? Just insensitive, uncaring people who I love unconditionally because I understand what it means to be a Bodhisattva. And I can also forgive them. So when we read this piece, just take a moment to reflect on it. Read it every morning before you brush your teeth. And this is the teaching, that piece. It's about interconnectedness and interdependency, impermanence. All the key teachings are in there. Comments, suggestions, questions, concerns, praise? I hate you. I hate you.
What for me personally, what was groundbreaking for me, reading this and getting to know this is I think it goes without saying based on what you said, but just a little bit more clarification. The part where it says no rank, and it's basically for me it was like, wow, I don't need to be that guy in that position to get this. I don't need to be have this amount of money to get this. I don't need to be born into this family to attain this. I don't need to be a king in order to have this type of consequence from practice. So it's like, it's not just for Roshis. This is for everyone to be had. And I think that was refreshing to me when I first learned that.
Thank you. And it's right here, right now. You don't have to do anything. Thank you. Any other thought? Oh, don't raise your hand.
The line that really speaks to me is, who then can be ungrateful or disrespectful even to senseless things? And I understand that they may be talking about things, but when I hear senseless things, it's if someone does an action to me and I cannot wrap my head around that, I realize that I don't need to wrap my head around that happened. For some reason they did that to me, or I do that to other people, and you acknowledge it and you experience it and then you move on from it. So that's just a little line that
Say that again, but use the word I.
I realized that it had happened. I realize that I don't need to understand why it happened, and I move on from it.
That makes sense? Wonderful. Does it feel different to say I?
Yes.
Thank you.
Where I got it.
Thank you. That's a nice piece, yeah. Anything else? I want to just make a off the subject comment. I really appreciate how tight we've become here. I think of it every Sunday morning when I stand up and I step aside and you two get your thing done, and it really is nice. I appreciate that you do that, and I think that tightness reflects on you and your practice, your awareness. I appreciate that, and I also want to give Katie her first Inji bead. Did you see her catch me this morning?
I did. Deeply grateful.
It felt like the floor had been waxed. Suddenly everything was moving. And
I was trying not to laugh.
somebody waxed the floor and she saw it. I just raised my ass, slid the cushion under.
Indian training.
I knew that was your chosen.
Never sit there.
Skillful means.
She gets an Inji bead. All right, we are done. Let's tidy up and go have coffee. Actually, that's your second Inji bead.
I was gonna say that something happened like that before.
Yeah, you pushed me.